Hi, so today we're going to be talking about a religion called Buddhism. Buddhism is often called the middle path because it is a moderate path of extreme religion, ways such as Jainism, or a more relaxed version of a religion called Hinduism. These three religions are often compared together because they have very many similarities. So let's get more into the basics so you can learn all about what Buddhism is. So, the basics. If you look up the definition of Buddhism on dictionary.com, they say that Buddhism is a religion that originated in India, holding that life is full of suffering caused by desire, and that the way to end suffering is through enlightenment. That enables one to halt the endless sequence of births and deaths that which you were otherwise subject to. So, I understand that was a very wordy definition, but don't worry, we're going to break this down so you can understand more about Buddhism. Buddhism was founded in about 5th century BC in Nepal, India. It was founded by a man named Siddhartha Gautama, who you may know better as Buddha. So Siddhartha lived a life of luxury. It was said that he was either going to be a very, very holy man or a great king. So his father did everything he could to keep him sheltered. He didn't live in a palace, he never sold anything, he had so many toys, he had everything you could ever want. So one day, when Siddhartha was about 29, he decided to leave the castle. He went outside and he saw 3 men. One man was suffering from disease, the other man was suffering from old age, and the last man was already dead, so he saw the corpse. He also saw a monk wandering around asking himself the question why this was happening. So Siddhartha decided he was going to answer the monk's question and decide how he could stop it. So he left the palace. After he left the palace, Buddha had meditated to himself for a very extended period of time. However, he had still not found the answer to why people were suffering. However, he came to realize that with the strict religious path he was following, he couldn't find the answer to why people were suffering because he himself was suffering. So he decided to make the moderate path, which basically is you can have things, but not too many things. So, for example, you can have food, but you don't need a 10-course meal. Or a more modern example, you can have a car, but you don't need a $1 million sports car. So, after this, Buddha went and sat underneath a tree called the Bodhi tree. He sat there and meditated for 7 days straight without moving. After this, he reached enlightenment or nirvana. So let's get to more about nirvana. So the first thing you need to understand about nirvana is that when Buddha reached it, he was not all-knowing because Buddha himself is not a god. In Buddhism, it is not centered around a god or the act of worshiping a god. So what nirvana is, it is the state of complete content. So everything is just perfect. You're happy, everything's great, so it's almost equivalent to that of a perfect day. When Buddha reached nirvana, he found the answer to people's suffering. But instead of dying, he decided to stay and teach his findings, or what is called Dharma. It is said that one can find nirvana when they are meditating, but as soon as they stop, it goes away, until the more and more they meditate until they finally, at the end, reach nirvana. So, like I said earlier, Buddhism does not worship a god, but instead centers around the timeless importance of the teaching of the Dharma. So, also, Buddhism is big on equality, so there is no caste system or ranking of people. Perhaps the most important of Buddha's findings are called the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths are what teach people how they can reach nirvana. So, the first noble truth that you need to understand is that there is suffering in the world. And then the second noble truth is that there is a cause for all the suffering in the world. The cause for that is desire. People continuously want things that they can't have, which leads to them suffering. The third is that there is an end to the suffering, which is peace. The fourth is that there's a method to bring about to the end of suffering. You ultimately cause your own suffering. If you didn't want things or desire them, you wouldn't be suffering. Also, the fourth noble truth brings us to something called Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is a system of following 8 divisions of the path to achieve nirvana. It includes right understanding, right thought, right speech, right conduct, right means of making a living, right mental attitude, right mindfulness, and right concentration. If you follow these teachings, then it is said that you will reach nirvana. There's also something called the 5 precepts. They're a lot like the 10 commandments. They are don't steal, lie, kill, have premarital sex, or consume drugs or alcohol. When you need help or guidance in living the correct way in the Buddhism religion, they have something called the 3 jewels. They are the refugee, which is a place of healing, Dharma, which are also Buddha's teachings, and Buddhas, which is reminding you that Buddha was just a normal guy who went and reached nirvana, so you're supposed to keep in mind that you can do it too. Next, let's talk about some of their religious beliefs. Buddhism is a very unique religion, and necessarily it doesn't normally fit in with the other religions. So, Buddhists do not believe in a god or a creator. There is no heaven or hell, and Buddhists are taught to test their teachings by personal experience. Buddhism teaches you that you should go through reincarnation, or the experience in our life after you die to hopefully end samsara, which is a cycle of rebirth, to reach nirvana by following the laws of karma, which is doing good deeds. The sacred book for Buddhism is called the Triptaka, or the Three Baskets. There are many versions of this book, and it is written in Pali, which is an old Indian language that is close to the language that Buddhists spoke. There are three parts to this book: the Vijnana Pitaka, the Sutta Pitaka, and the Abhidhamma Pitaka. This book also contains no divine relationships or divine truths. So, now let's take a look at Buddhist symbols, because trust me, there's a lot. In Buddhism, there are many different symbols. One of these symbols is a deer. This is a direct representation of Buddhist teachings. Also, Buddhists use prayer beads. Prayer beads help recite the mantras. Mantras are said to help overcome, appease, increase, and conquer. In Tibet, they have something called prayer wheels. Spinning the wheels symbolizes reciting the mantra, or doing a whole circle of prayer beads. There are also something called prayer flags. The flags are hung outside and carry your prayers into the wind. There are 5 different colors to represent the 5 different elements. Also, there is something called mudras. These are the hand shapes you see on the Buddhist statues. This one represents turning the wheel of Dharma. This one is meditation. This one is a bestowal of extreme accomplishment. And this one is pressing the earth. And the last one is turning the wheel of Dharma while meditating. So now that you've seen the symbols, we're going to move on to our last topic. The last thing we're going to talk about today is holy places, holidays, and traditions. When you're a Buddhist, you can either worship at a temple or you can worship in your home. At a temple, there is normally a statue of Buddha where you can do your praying. Or if you have something at your home, you normally set up a shrine so you can recite your prayers to it. In Buddhism, it is not required that you go to a temple. However, there are padanas, which are multi-tiered buildings in Japan or China. And there are stupas. These are more bell-shaped towers in Southeast Asia. These are the oldest structures. There are not a ton of Buddhist holidays. However, some of them do include Wesak Day. This is the most important Buddhist holiday. It is held on the first moon of May and is often a spring festival because it chases out the winter and welcomes the spring. There is also something called Sahag Day, which celebrates the collection of Buddhist gifts. Oftentimes, gifts are exchanged during this holiday. In Tibet, they celebrate a holiday called Basar. This is the start of the Tibet New Year, so this is only celebrated in Tibet, not by all Buddhists. There's also something called Dharma Day, which celebrates Buddhist teaching, and there's the holiday called Parinirvana, which celebrates the day that Buddha reached nirvana. Just like any other religion, Buddhists have very many traditions that they do. One of these traditions include venerating the Buddha. This is where you meditate to the qualities of Buddha. Also, you honor him, and you offer him gifts. Another one is pilgrimages. People go on pilgrimages to holy places, such as the Bodhi tree. There are 4 main reasons people go on pilgrimages. One of them is to further spiritual discipline, to fulfill a vow, for spiritual experience, or devotion. Also, Buddhists create sand mandalas. These are often very colorful and symmetrical. However, when they are finished, they sweep away the mandalas, and release the sand into the river. This is to show that they do not have desire. So now that we've gotten to understand the basics of Buddhism, I hope you have a better understanding of Buddhists and their religions. There is many more things to understand about Buddhism that I could not fit in just one short video. But if you continue to learn about it, maybe one day you can switch to Buddhism yourself. Thanks for watching and have a great day.